Welcome back to Mac Stories Unwind. Today I have a special guest along with me. I'm John Voorhees, of course, and with me is Jonathan Reed. We've got, I guess, John and John, but you don't really go by John, do you?
I don't. Well, I mean, I'm not going to get offended, but, preferably Jonathan.
All right. Well, Jonathan works for me. Other than the fact that you don't have an H, you should have an H. Although, I guess Jonathans don't already have an H. They just put it in the wrong place.
Oh, I don't know. Do you really want to go down this rabbit hole, John, about the H's?
I know. Well, we gave Federico the week off because he is taking a little vacation, enjoying himself, getting some sun and taking it easy. And so Jonathan stopped by because not long from now, I am going to be visiting his hometown of London, England, because the Relay 10th anniversary show is happening in London in another, as we publish this, in a couple of weeks, I guess. And I am actually making an extended vacation myself. I'm starting out in Ireland and then going over to England for the Relay event for the second half of my trip. And it's been a long while since I've been in London. So I wanted to talk to Jonathan about some tips and tricks of things to do while in London, because just to give you some context, Jonathan, the last time I was there was 2018, pre-pandemic, for Mike Hurley's wedding. So that's all has a very Relay theme to it. I had been there years and years before that, but 2018 was the last time I was there, and we stayed. I'm kind of forgetting where we stayed. Pretty central London, I want to say, and we did a lot of the traditional touristy things, like we went to the Tower of London and to Buckingham Palace, and we walked around the theatre district, and we went to Parliament, and we walked along the Thames and saw, the Shakespeare Theatre that's been kind of rebuilt or recreated there along that area. We've seen that. Went to the Shard, went up in the Shard. I'm trying to think what else we did. Those are kind of the main things I think that we did that I remember that are really touristy. And that, as I said, was a while ago. But some of that stuff I think we'll probably want to revisit, because last time we were there, we have 3 kids, and 2 of the 3 went with us in 2018, and 2 of the 3 are coming with us again this time, but it's a different 2 out of 3 with an overlap of 1. So we are going to want our oldest son to have a chance to see some of the touristy stuff too. But what kind of stuff would you recommend we do? First of all, I guess I will ask you this. It was unbearably hot at Mike Hurley's wedding. What's it looking like in London these days? It doesn't seem that bad.
It's been a very strange summer. We've the common phrase that everyone's been saying is, when's summer going to start? And it sort of started 2 or 3 weeks ago, and got really hot. But then, I'm looking out my window now, and it's just been pouring with rain about an hour ago. So I don't know, climate change or just a bad year. A lot of things are contributing. So I wouldn't want to predict it. I would think it would be definitely on the warm side when you're here. Traditionally, it would have been, but it's been very variable recently. So definitely make sure you pack a waterproof. That's standard, I think, for England anyway. But I'm sure you will.
Yeah, I definitely will do that. One of my kids actually was there this past weekend, and it rained all weekend, he said.
Oh, right. Well, there you go. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a bit up and down at the minute, but theoretically it should be warm and sunny. So yeah, keep your fingers crossed.
Good.
But yeah, it's interesting you say that you visited the Shard and you saw some of the classic landmarks, because I have some good picks which I think are sort of approaching the similar views of London and so forth, but maybe from a different angle. So I think a classic one to do, and it's something that I know Federico's talked about before, that he did with Mike recently when they were in London, and it is a good pick. It is a really good pick, is to walk down the Southbank, because you can get a good view of the other side, the North Bank, where there is, you can see St. Paul's Cathedral, you can see MI5 headquarters, if you like that. You can see Big Ben. You can see the Houses of Parliament. There's lots of views sort of from that other side. And the best bit about it is it's not really packed with tourists. The tourists tend to sort of stick right to the key landmarks. So if you go across the river to in front of the Houses of Parliament, it is packed. There's always tourists there. They're selfie sticks, taking lots of pictures. It's packed. So if you're on the other side, you actually get a better view. And it's quite casual. There's the British Film Institute as well on that side, which is a really good visit. There's lots of little cafes and some chain restaurants and so forth, but they're never really absolutely packed, except for, I guess, Saturdays and sort of Sundays when it can get busier. But it's a good place to really get a good view of London without getting, knee deep in tourists. So that's the default. That's the good one that everyone, I think, recommends. People who living in London recommend to people who are going to visit. So you will get some good views there. So that will be my first pick.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I know Federico did speak very highly of it because he had a little time on his hands when he was there for that iPad event, a couple of months ago.
Yeah, and certainly if it's a sunny day, that's a glorious walk. It's very nice. You can also do a slight alternative one is that you can go to Greenwich. The Greenwich station, but also Greenwich is is an area of London, and you can take what's called the Thames Clipper, which is a boat. It's actually part of the London TfL network, and so you can use your credit card or Oyster card to tap in, just as you would going onto the tube, the underground, or onto the buses. And it goes from Greenwich all the way back to Westminster. So just in front of the House of Parliament and Big Ben. It's a much quicker view, but that's also a similar one that you can do. And, you get a good view of either side of the Thames. So
yeah, I do remember seeing the boats when I was there last time, and they were all day long going back and forth up and down the river, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's funny because it's weirdly used by commuters, people who go and work in the business districts in the east side of London. Often take that boat as well. So yeah, that's a good choice. My next pick was I thought was more appropriate for you guys on Unwind, and there's a chain bar. So it started out as one bar in South London in Peckham, and it's called the Four Quarters. And this is a retro video game bar. So you can go to the bar, and they have a good range of beers and food and so forth, available. And they have big arcade games. They have classic, Nintendo systems, SNESs. Depending on which one you go to, there's now quite a few of them. You'll get a variety of different ones. But the idea here is that it's lots of retro games, and you can have a drink and you can have something to eat while you do it. And I've used to go to, so they've now expanded across the UK. In fact, there's got places in Bristol and so forth, and Newcastle. And this was a really good place to go after a few drinks on a Friday night. When my brother used to live in Peckham, we'd go out, go to the pubs, have something to drink, and then it would get to sort of 11 o'clock, and this place was always open late. So we'd roll in there at 11 o'clock, have some good multiplayer games on some retro consoles, have a couple more beers just before we go home. So it's a really good place. It's become a lot more, should we say, organized. It was very sort of ramshackle when I used to go to the one in Peckham, but they've got themselves together a lot, and obviously seen the attraction for some people in this. But it's a really great place to go. So that's another recommendation.
Let's see. How about some particular landmarks? Do you have any landmarks on your list?
You can. So actually, one good idea is you can go to Primrose Hill, which is in North London. It's a big hill, basically. It's a sort of a big park with a big hill in the middle. You can go up to the top of that, and you can get a full view of the entirety of London. So you can see down in the distance there is, there's the Shard and, St Paul's Cathedral. There's a handy big map that's mounted on a big pedestal at the top of the hill, so which points out the various landmarks, and you can sort of line up where you're stood with what you're looking at, which is really good. And then after that, you could go to Abbey Road, which is quite nearby. So if you're if you're a big Beatles fan, you want to do the classic zebra crossing walk and take your picture, which is quite a skill in itself, because if you're taking the picture in the same position as the Beatles cover, you have to navigate the traffic.
Yes.
So be warned. Go on a quiet day. Yeah. So that's like a good place to go to get a good view, another good view, and with a good tourist attraction nearby. I think there's lots of galleries in London. So if you like looking at art, there is the Tate Modern, which is on the Southbank. So you can mix that in with one of your walks. There, also, if you go to the cafe at the top of the Tate Modern, you get another really great view, because it's a very tall building.
Oh, that's good to know. I actually did go to the Tate Modern last time I was there, but I don't think I went to the cafe. That sounds like a nice place. I know that location is a really nice location in the city.
Yeah, it is a great place. There's the South Bank I feel like it's maybe underrated for tourist attractions. I think everyone who lives in London knows about it and really likes it, but when tourists come over, I feel that they don't really gravitate to the South Bank, which I find quite strange, because it's a great place. There is also, actually very close to where I work in East London, so this will be coming towards Shoreditch, is the Barbican. So the Barbican is a mixture of an art gallery, so there's lots of art there. There's also a cinema, but it's also a very kind of brutalist architecture, and people live there. There are some, I think we'll drop a link in the show notes for this, because you think you have to really see it to sort of understand what it is. But people live there. It's a big kind of housing complex as well, and it has this kind of brutalist architecture, which they in fact used for filming some scenes in I can't remember the name of the TV series, the spin-off from Rogue One, the Star Wars series. Andor, that's the name of the show.
Right.
So some of the scenes that were set in that show were actually filmed in the Barbican, because it has this really kind of brutalist sort of concrete structure, and that worked well with the show, obviously with the addition of a lot of CGI. So that's a really good place, and actually that's right next to where they film Slow Horses, so you could go and have a little look at where the headquarters of Slough House is. So that's another good shout. I mean, I'm just rattling through these, but I think for anyone listening who's coming to the Relay 10 event, it's nearby to that event, which is at the Hackney Empire in a place called Hackney in sort of in East London, which is very close to where I live. There's about a 10-minute cycle ride for me, which is very convenient for that day.
Yeah.
There is a couple of places around there which are great. There's a Pophams Bakery, which is around the corner from from Hackney Empire. So if you're staying in the area and you want to get some pastries for the morning, that's a great place to go. London Fields is just around the corner, which is a big open green space where you can sit, and if it's a great day, you could bring picnic to eat. I will warn you that it gets absolutely packed with hipsters on a sunny day. So be warned, it will get very busy. But if you fancy yourself a cool person, you can certainly fit in very well. I've tried it before. I don't know how successful I was. I think you'd have to ask someone else about that. But that's a great place to go there. And then also on the Sunday, which is maybe a good thing for you to try, John, is you can go to Columbia Road Flower Market, which is a great place to just have a wander down and see these men stood on the sides shouting and trying to sell their flowers to people. There are actually, in fact, I'll tell it lie. There are stuff you could get there. There's lots of little craft shops next to on the road. So you could get some little local crafts from there, which is a really good idea. But it's a vibe, shall we say? It's a Sunday morning vibe. People in East London go there, maybe buy some flowers, get some little trinkets, get a coffee, get some pastry. It's a really good place to be on a Sunday, especially on a bright sunny day. So
Oh, that sounds really nice. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the trip. I mean, it's been a while since I've been. It really has been a while since I've been out of the U.S. Even. I mean, I guess the last time I traveled internationally was 2021, which was still pretty much in the heart of dealing with lots of COVID restrictions and flying and getting in and out of countries. So kind of hopeful that it'll be a little easier this time around.
Was that when you visited Federico?
I did. I visited him, and I also visited my son Finn, who was at the time living in Dublin and graduating kind of belatedly from college because that got all delayed from COVID as well. So yeah, it was a similar trip in that we spent about a week. I was in Ireland with my wife, and then she went home, and I went on to Italy and spent a few days with Federico. So, but it's been a while since he and I got together, since we've both been busy moving the last couple of years. So,
yeah, it's been busy for years.
I think we should do a couple of media picks yet today before we close things out. Maybe I should get started. I've got a pretty quick one.
Yeah, I've been talking for a while, so let's hear from you.
I'll give you a little break. A little break. So I watched Godzilla X Kong. I don't know, Godzilla times Kong, Godzilla by Kong. Yeah, I don't really know. It's Godzilla times Kong, the New Empire. It's the one that came out in March of this year. And I remember when this movie came out, and it did not get particularly well reviewed. And I thought, well, it's on Max now, not really costing me anything extra. It seems like a good summertime movie, so I'll drop it and see what it's like. And it is pretty over the top, but I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I think as far as movies go in terms of quality of the cinematic experience, Godzilla Minus One is a much better movie, and kind of and neat in that it's very retro and kind of nostalgic for the early TV series and stuff like that, dating back to the 60s and 70s. But this movie was still quite well done. I mean, it was over the top in the sense that not only do you have the monsters on the surface of the earth and in Hollow Earth, which is the under the surface of the earth, but there's also yet another layer, which is like the subterranean realm, which is even beneath the Hollow Earth. So now we've got like 3 layers of monsters in different places. And the whole idea is that there is this Scar King that is living in the subterranean realm that wants to get to the surface of the earth and take over the earth. And Godzilla and King Kong they have to team up and defeat this guy, because he rides around on a dinosaur that breathes ice and can cause an ice age on the surface of the earth. All very ridiculous. Yeah. Plus there's a Mothra, who can speak telepathically with the indigenous people of Hollow Earth. So there's there's a lot going on here. And Godzilla at one point, he absorbs the energy of another monster that's under the Arctic, and he goes from having blue scales on his back that can then, allow him to breathe like, I don't know, atomic power, to pink scales. So he goes from light blue to hot pink over the course of the movie, which is
it's a vibe,
It's a wholly different thing. And so he's breathing pink fire instead of blue fire, which is kind of interesting. He trashes parts of Rome. I've seen a lot of movies recently that are all involve destruction of Rome, which is kind of odd. It was Fast 10 was the other one that I saw, where they blew up a giant
with
bomb
the big rolling ball thing. Yeah.
Right, in the river. And this was just, Godzilla stomping around through parts of Rome. Rome, Cairo, Brazil, I forget where else, but a bunch of other places. Oh, Spain. I think they were in Spain too at one point.
No. Oh.
Yeah. So all over the place, specifically a lot of time in the Mediterranean part of Europe, because they also were in France. Now that I think of it, they were in the south of France at one point. So it's nice. It's fun in that you see a lot of interesting places and you see a lot of monsters battling it out. And the story is a little bit over the top and crazy, but at the same time, for a nice, fluffy Saturday evening summertime movie, it's a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. And it's on Max right now, streaming. So
Yeah.
I would, on balance, recommend it as a fun movie if you're looking for that kind of thing.
Yeah, that sounds like a perfect. I've had an exhausting day and I just want to sit, put my feet up and watch something unchallenging. Yeah, I might have to check that out then. I have a couple of quick picks and staying with the theme of the UK. So I've picked a couple of UK based, well, one's a bit of a cheat, but two UK based picks. So the first one I have is a series called We Are Lady Parts. And this is a sitcom, a comedy, half-hour comedy, which has just had its second season premiered on Peacock and Channel 4 in the UK, sort of the end of May, I think it was. And this show follows 5 Muslim girls forming a punk band, and how they sort of, figure out how to start performing and get touring and so forth, without giving too much away. But it's a very, very funny show. I think that's for all the sort of various, I think, inevitable talk about how it's it focuses on a sort of parts of society which maybe don't get a look in on mainstream TV as much. It is very funny. So that's the first big selling point on there. It was created by Nida Manzoor, and the main star, who I'm so impressed with, I think she's definitely one to look out for in the future, is Anjana Vasan, who plays Amina. So she joins the band at the beginning of the series, and she has stage fright, so she can't help. She can't really perform without basically getting, vomiting.
Oh no!
It's a journey for her, and she's also navigating life as a professional woman, but also with the sort of the family pressures of getting a husband. And so it's got a really good balance of some interesting characters, fun storylines, and I think it also shows off. It's based around Bethnal Green and Whitechapel and Walthamstow, and sort of in East London. So it shows off a lot of that area as well, which is great. So if you're interested in seeing, I think, a realistic portrait of London and Londoners, this is also a really good show for that. But yeah, We Are Lady Parts is a really great show, and I recommend you check it out on Channel 4 or Peacock in the US. There's also a great soundtrack and original songs by the cast as well, so that's also really good. And my second pick it's a bit of a cheat because they're actually based in Dublin, so not technically in the UK, but is a band called Fontaines DC. I don't know if you've heard of them. Yeah, so a really fantastic band. They're just about to, I think, release their new album. I think their 4th album, and I think they are a rock and roll band is a fair way to put them. They kind of follow in the footsteps of, I would say, like the Arctic Monkeys, Idols. Their lead singer kind of reminds me, is a little bit like, I don't know, it's like Marquis Smith. He has that sort of vibe about him. Their rock songs are really great. They've got a kind of this working class kind of feel to them, sort of very sort of authentic stories, very much in the vibe that the Arctic Monkeys covered. Mm-hmm. And another great thing about them is that you can really hear their Dublin accents. I think something that really annoys me about UK bands sometimes is when they cover up their accents a bit to sort of appeal more broadly.
Right. Yeah. Right. They all sound like Americans, basically.
Yeah. Or they just very neutral. I mean, even the Beatles were guilty of this. If you listen to the first Beatles album and then you listen later to the later stuff, and apparently they were told that to tone their accents down a bit in their songs, so they could break America easier. Mm-hmm. So Fontaines DC not interested in that. They are going full Dublin accents. Really great sort of energy in their band, and yeah, I'd recommend checking them out. They're a really good band.
Yeah, they're very good. I didn't realize they were Irish, but I've only heard a couple of different songs. So I'm looking, if they've got an album coming out, I'll be on the lookout for that. So
Yeah, check out their earlier ones. I mean, their first album is a real real barnstormer. Really, it's a great song. It's a great album. Yeah.
awesome. Well, thanks for the recommendations, Jonathan, and thanks for everybody for listening today. We got lots of great picks. If anybody is heading out to the relay event in London or just going to London for any reason, I think we'll have a bunch of links in the show notes so you can check out all the places that Jonathan recommends to visit, which I'm going to definitely be doing when I'm heading out there. You can find the two of us over at macstories.net. I'm going to let Jonathan tell you where to find him online. Where can they find you on like social media, Jonathan?
You can find me on Mastodon mainly. I am at Jonathan Reed at techhub.social.
All right, very good. And I am on Mastodon. You can go to johnvorhees.macstories.net to find a link to follow me there, and on Threads and Instagram, where I am at John Voorhees. That's JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you later, Jonathan.
Talk to you later, John.